G'day everybody, my name is Lowell and welcome to the channel. So somebody sent me this link for 13 things about the US I can't live without anymore, as coming from somebody from Germany. So, okay, let's jump in and I've never lived in the US, so I don't know what she's going to talk about. But anyway, let's jump in and let's have a look what she can't live without anymore. Would it be that different? I don't know. Let's jump in and let's have a listen.
It's been 5 years of me living in the US, so what do I really think of this country after all this time?
5 years is a long time. I mean, you're obviously well ingrained in the community, so okay.
Hallo, servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Felicia, I'm originally from Munich, Germany, and 5 years ago today is when I arrived in the US for my first long-term stay here. I had been to the US for a 2-week-long high school exchange and for vacation before, but I had never actually lived here. Until August 13th, 2016, when I got on a plane from Munich to Paris and then from Paris to Cincinnati to start my exchange semester at the University of Cincinnati. And what was supposed to be just a 5-month-long stay turned into me coming back over and over again on different visas until I received my green card in September 2019. If you want to learn more about me winning the green card lottery, I'm gonna link the videos about that down below and also up here.
Green card lottery? What the heck is that? I know green card you need to stay there. Wait, do they just give them away as well?
Since that day 5 years ago, I haven't been in the US permanently. I spent a little over a year in Germany during that time too, but I still consider this my 5-year US anniversary, and I think this is a great occasion for a recap. Which is why I want to share 13 things, since today is August 13th, about the US with you that I don't want to live without anymore after living here for 5 years. I also made a list of things that I still can't get used to here in the US after all this time, which might be an even more interesting topic even, but I figured it would sound a little snooty to celebrate this anniversary by basically listing all the complaints I have. So I'm sharing the positive things with you guys today and then giving you the other side next week. Oh, and if you follow me on Instagram or watch my YouTube stories, you probably know that I'm actually in Germany at the time that you're watching this, but I'm recording this here in Cincinnati right now. Number 1 on my list of things about the US that I don't want to live without anymore is air conditioning. As you guys know, it's pretty normal in the US to have air conditioning in buildings.
Wait, they don't have air conditioning in Germany?
Whether that's stores, public buildings, or private homes. More modern buildings even have central air conditioning usually, where the air gets circulated through these air vents that you'll find in every room. Now, why is this so special? For those of you who don't know, in Europe and actually in most countries of the world, it's actually not standard to have air conditioning inside of buildings.
I'm from Queensland. We have 4 air conditioners in my house. I have one on right now behind me. I could not live without air conditioning in Australia in summertime. Well, anytime, actually. That's so weird. No, huh?
Now, in one of my pretty early videos, I actually said that I wasn't a big fan of central AC, and many of you guys commented that I wouldn't say that if I lived in a hotter area. Now, first of all, Cincinnati does get extremely hot and especially humid in the summer. This year it's been fluctuating a little bit more, but usually from about April to September, it's 80 to 90 degrees almost the whole time with a really high humidity, which often makes it pretty hard to deal with. It'll get over 100 degrees a lot too, so like around 38 degrees Celsius. Now, of course, we also have cold winters here, but it's not like we don't deal with the heat here at all. If you look at the longitude, Cincinnati is about the same level as Ibiza in Spain or Sardinia in Italy. The reason why I said I didn't love central AC back then was because when living with other people or in public buildings like at a university, Americans often really overdo it with the AC. Instead of setting the temperature to a normal average room temperature inside that would already feel cold compared to the hot summer air outside, it often feels like an actual fridge inside. I'm not kidding, people often set it to like 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, like around 63 degrees Fahrenheit, which to me is just as
16, 18 is spot on. That's perfect weather. That's perfect temperature because you know it's going to be hot as anything outside. You might as well enjoy it while you can. I mean, honestly, that's why Australians go to shopping centres with no shoes on, because it's so freaking hot. And we like the cool tiles on our... But that's another story for another time.
Convenient as the outdoor temperature is just the other extreme. Plus, you usually wear short summer clothes during that time, and it's pretty annoying to always basically have to carry a sweater with you in the middle of the summer because you'll need it when you go inside. So that was one reason why I said that back then, and then the other reason was that I find it kind of annoying that in a bigger house, when you live with your family or roommates, it's all regulated centrally. So you can't turn it up or down or even off just in your room or just in the living room. If the rest of the people want the AC on, you have to live with it. At most places you can usually close your vent in your room, but that doesn't usually make that big of a difference.
See, in Australia, we very rarely has central air conditioning because it's so damn expensive. So we just have single units. And we have better control than that. So we couldn't live without air conditioning, especially in Queensland.
I'd personally like it better if you could regulate the temperature individually in every room. I remember that 5 years ago when I came here on my exchange semester in August, I was sitting in my room doing homework or something, and I was wearing my warm winter clothes that I had brought for later on in the semester, and I was also wearing a scarf because I found it so cold inside. And I also got sick for like a few weeks straight right after I came here because the AC was so cold. But besides that, I think it's awesome that AC exists here because it helps a lot with the humidity, and it's also just really, really nice to be in a restaurant or even in a club with a dance floor and not have to sweat your ass off. In Germany, when it's hot everywhere usually. On the subway, in restaurants, at school, in the office. But here, you don't usually have to worry about your legs sticking to a chair when sitting down in the summer, so that's pretty awesome. Plus, ceiling fans are great too, so when I'm home in Germany in the summer, when it's actually hot there for once, I actually do miss both my AC and my ceiling fans. Number 2 is customer service. I know that many Germans don't share this opinion, especially the ones who only know this from vacation to the US or from the media, but once you've gotten used to it, American customer service is pretty amazing. Whether it's at a store or a restaurant, overall people working in customer service just treat you really, really nicely here. They'll be friendly, make small talk with you, and usually try to accommodate every request you might have.
Now, is that because they do really good customer service, or is that because they get tipped for doing customer service? See, we don't tip in Australia, and I think our customer service here is pretty bloody good. I wonder if that's maybe... Don't let me know your thoughts. Is it good because Americans are good at customer service, or is it good because you get tipped? And the better your customer service, the bigger the tip. So is that a kind of catch-22?
Have, even if you're basically asking to create a whole new meal that isn't on the menu. In Germany, you'd probably just get an answer along the lines of, that's not possible, not even a sorry in a lot of cases. Of course, this isn't always the case, but overall, this is a difference that really sticks out. And even though many Germans say that they prefer the direct and sometimes even unfriendly German customer service, I really haven't met anyone who says that after living here for a while. It definitely takes a little bit to get used to the American way because as a German, it might seem disingenuous at first, maybe even fake and over the top, but it's kind of like a cultural language that you'll have to learn how to speak and understand first, and I personally don't want to live without it anymore. I've had so many people working in customer service just make my day much better just by being friendly or exchanging some nice small talk. It can even make running errands a much more pleasant experience. I just recently told a story about when I had to get my Ohio driver's license renewed on the podcast. That was a perfect example of this too, so I'll just link that episode down below. Of course, I know that, especially in the food service industry, a lot of the good customer service goes back to the staff being paid only a few dollars an hour and mainly relying on tips. But you'll experience the good customer service in other fields as well, where people are paid much better. So I would argue that it's much more than just the tipping culture.
I mean, that's fantastic if that's the reason they just give good customer service. I mean, that's the whole point of, sometimes, going to shops and stuff, you get good customer service. You keep going back there.
Next point on my list is convenience. I feel like this one is a pretty obvious one, but the US really is the country of consumption and convenience. You need some milk, a new bathing suit, and a new lamp for your living room. Just go to Walmart or Target or any of those stores and you'll find everything in one store. Plus, there's most likely also going to be a Starbucks in there too. You're in a hurry, but you need to stop by the store for a couple things. No worries, just run in, check out at the self-checkout machine, and usually you don't even need to bring your wallet, just pay with your phone. If you realize at midnight on a Sunday that you're out of tomatoes, no worries, just go to the grocery store. Many of them don't close until 1 a.m. or never. And stores aren't closed on Sundays like they are in Germany. What a dream. Or you can just have the tomatoes delivered, or order takeout from a restaurant with services like Uber Eats or DoorDash or Grubhub.
I think this one is pretty universal, surely. I mean, we have all that in Australia. Granted, the stores aren't open as long, but I think that one's pretty universal, surely.
Etc. And of course, a big part of this whole convenience thing is also the fact that here in the Midwest, you can just drive to places and you'll usually find parking pretty easily. And the parking spots are huge compared to Germany, and so are the streets. Driving here in Ohio is just so relaxing compared to driving and especially parking in Munich. Is it environmentally friendly? Definitely not. Is it convenient though? Unfortunately, yes. Along with the big streets and parking spots also goes the fact that there's just a lot more space in this country than in Germany. Wow. Everything is huge here, and I especially enjoy that when it comes to living spaces. Houses, bedrooms, closets, fridges, all of that is just so much bigger in the US, and especially here in Ohio, living space is still relatively inexpensive compared to Munich, which is the most expensive city to live in Germany. Here, when people say that they have a tiny bedroom, it's still big for German standards usually. And in Ohio,
I think that's probably the same as Australia. We have a lot of room here. Australia's not that much smaller than the US, but we only have 25 million people here. So, okay, I could go with space. We've got a lot of space here as well.
Ohio, you can buy a regular house with, let's say, 2 or 3 bedrooms for like $100,000 to $200,000, while even just an apartment with 3 bedrooms in Munich is usually over $1 million. The fifth thing that I really wouldn't want to miss about the US is how easy it is to connect with people here. Americans in general are just so open to meeting new people and making new friends. You can combine friend groups pretty easily if you're having a party or a barbecue, and especially as someone who's new to a country, it's a lot easier to find friends than it would be in Germany, where friend groups tend to be a little more closed off and long-term. Plus, I feel like Americans are great at genuinely being interested in another person's story and finding common ground, even if you're really different people on the surface. Number 6.
I think Australia's like that too. We're very, very friendly, very open to meeting new people. I think Australia's like that as well too. So I could probably see, maybe not just Germany, but maybe Europe a little closed off in that aspect. Interesting.
6 is pretty simple, but it has become an absolute essential part of my life. Kettle corn. It's a mix of sweet and salty popcorn, and it's the absolute best.
Kettle corn? So it's just popcorn. Why is it called kettle corn? Is that how you make it, in a kettle? No, see, kettle for us is different. I don't think. Okay, a kettle for us is how you boil water for your coffee or your tea.
Best snack in the world. The best store brand for kettle corn is Boom Chicka Pop, by the way. They're not sponsoring me, even though they should, so if anyone working for Boom Chicka Pop is watching, shoot me an email. But jokes aside, in Germany it's actually standard to eat sweet popcorn at the movie theater. So if you don't specify otherwise, ordering popcorn means ordering sweet popcorn. Not even mixed, just sweet. In the US, popcorn is salty by default and often has a butter sauce on top, so it's more of a salty and buttery snack, and they'll also put things like cheese powder on it, which has grown on me, to be honest, but the creme de la creme is still kettle corn. Number 7 is carpet in houses. It's a lot more common in the US to have carpeted floors in the living room, but especially in the bedrooms, than it is in Germany. In Germany, that's a rather outdated thing, and you won't see a lot of houses with carpet anymore these
It's same as Australia. We kind of moved away from carpet. We've got definitely a lot of, because it's cooler. Tiled floor, some of the new houses have all the way through. Or just wooden, just your wooden floorboards. So not so much the carpet these days. Not so much the carpet.
You'll mostly find hardwood floors there, parquet usually. And that's because most Germans prefer hardwood floors, and nowadays a lot of Americans do too, but I love how common carpet is here because I just find it so much more cozy to wake up in the morning and walk on soft, fluffy carpet rather than walking on cold and slippery hardwood floors. One big thing that I'd like for Germany...
if your hardwood floors are slippery, then you need to do some more cleaning.
To adopt, so this is my official request, Germany, is the amount of pools that you'll find here in the US. Not just private pools that you'll find in someone's backyard, but neighborhood pools or pools in apartment buildings. That's not a common thing at all in Germany, but here, if you live in the suburbs or a more residential neighborhood, it's super common that there's a public pool that everyone living in the neighborhood can use. And many apartment complexes have a pool too, kind of like a hotel. There are even student apartment buildings with pools here. And needless to say, in the summer, that's just really awesome. You either have a pool in your own neighborhood or you'll go to the one in your friend's neighborhood or building, and they often have public grills too. The next thing that I love here in the US...
So we have a lot of pools here in Australia, obviously. The only obviously issue we have in Australia with the pools is the sun. It's Queensland especially, we are the sun cancer capital of the world, so all our pools seem to be undercover as well, all our public ones. We have a lot of public pools. And then obviously, of course, we use pools for a lot of sport. Sport mad we are in Australia, so we do a lot of water sports. Okay, I never thought about that. I guess if it's cold as well in Germany, you don't really want to be swimming when it's cold.
In my daily life is the bar culture. I feel like overall it's a much bigger bar/pub culture here than in Germany, especially compared to Munich, where we don't have a lot of bars where you just go in and get a drink at the bar and then stand around or sit on a bar stool. Most places have table service, and if you want to go party, you'll usually go to a club where you'll have to pay a cover fee and where the party doesn't really start until 1 a.m. or later. Here in the US, I just love how many, let's call them non-binding bars there are, where nobody cares whether you order something or not, and you can just get a beer for $3, or at least here in Cincinnati you can, and you can hang out, and many bars even have a dance floor too.
So we have what we call pub culture in Australia. A lot of that, bars and stuff like that. It's ironic that a German is saying that they don't have a very big bar culture, where most of the world celebrate their bar culture through Oktoberfest every year. That's ironic, don't you think? I find that very ironic.
Cover fee, and since in Ohio and many other American states the sale of alcohol has to end by 2 a.m., most bars close at 2 or 2:30 a.m. Sounds early, and you might wonder, why would I like that? Well, I like it because it means that people start partying much earlier, and I get to go to sleep at pretty much my normal sleep time because I'm a night owl, and I don't have to ruin the entire next day like in Germany, where you often stay out until 6 a.m. or later because the party doesn't even really start until late at night. Plus,
so the other thing about Australia is you only have to be 18 to go to the pub, not 21.
Going out here is much cheaper since a lot of the bars simply have a dance floor and you don't need to pay a cover fee, so it's more flexible, better hours in my opinion, and a lot cheaper. Plus, I like the music much better too. I'm not really into EDM, and in my opinion, Germans don't have great taste in music because they don't have a lot of rhythm, so everything is always just...
Okay, that's a bit of a slash at your own culture, but whatever.
Boom, 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 like the same beat the whole night. So I personally just like the music here in the US a lot better. Another really important one is Mexican food. With Mexico being right across the border and Mexicans being the biggest immigrant group here, you'll find Mexican restaurants everywhere, which we don't really have in Germany. Now, before you guys...
We don't have Mexican food. We've only just got Taco Bell, which I still haven't had yet. So Mexican food, very generic here. Tacos, obviously our own version of tacos and whatever else. Yeah, okay.
Comment, oh, but it's not real Mexican food. It's Tex-Mex. It's Americanized. Well, first of all, that tastes really good too, but even in Cincinnati in the Midwest, there are numerous authentic Mexican restaurants as well. I've never been to Mexico myself, but if Mexicans who live here say that it's authentic, I'll believe them. You don't have to travel to certain states to find good Mexican food. It's really all over the country. The next point is something that I've talked about a little more in detail in this video, but I really like the positive mindset in the American culture. This is a generalization, of course, but overall, Americans have an attitude that's much more, let's try it, what could go wrong, rather than Germans who are...
Hold my beer. Australia's like that too. We're very positive, you know, give it a go. Sure, we're right, mate. Yeah, okay. I like that.
Often
Definitely.
More like, why would we try that? Something could go wrong. I like to summarize it like this. When Germans would say, why are you doing that? Americans are often more like, why not? Which is something that I personally just really enjoy because I find it to be a much more supportive environment to be creative personally and live your life how you want to live it and not how other people expect you to live it. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have this YouTube channel if it weren't for that positive and encouraging mindset here. Number 12 on my list is flexibility, by which I mostly mean that compared to Germany, when it comes to moving or your job, things are a lot more spontaneous and you can decide things much more last minute here. Like, well, in Germany, it's common that you have to give a 3 months notice to quit your job or being fired. It's
3 months? Dang. No, not here. 2 weeks. That's it. 2 weeks, especially if you quit.
Only a 2 weeks notice here, even for salary jobs, which obviously has a lot of downsides too, but I kind of like how it makes life a little bit more flexible. Even more so with housing, if you rent a place, it's usually a 1-year lease in the US. If you want to stay after that year, you can usually re-sign the lease for another year, but it kind of encourages a lot of people to move a lot, which again might be perceived as something negative, but I personally like how it's normal for people to move around a lot and thereby keep their lives interesting and keep their options open as to where and how they're going to live in the future.
We only do 6-month leases in Australia. Okay, I don't think anybody signs a 12-month lease in Australia for housing. At least.
Germany, leases are usually unlimited and people move a lot less in general. If you buy a house in Germany, you usually plan on staying there permanently or at least for a really long time, whereas Americans often just buy houses and then sell them again after a few years to move somewhere new. And last but not least, a thing that I could have included in my point on convenience, but I felt like it deserved to have its own point on the list, is drive-thrus. One of the most American and most convenient things ever. There are really drive-thrus everywhere here for fast food restaurants, obviously, but also for Starbucks and other coffee shops, pharmacies, banks, so like drive-thru ATMs, drive-thru vaccines, which is how I got my COVID vaccine, drive-thru convenience stores, or even liquor stores, and apparently there are even drive-thru wedding chapels. You can definitely call it lazy, but it's also part of that American convenience that has kind of seduced me in a way. It's just so comfortable.
I mean, we have a lot of drive-thrus in Australia, much more than we used to have drive-thru coffee shops and stuff. I have heard about drive-thru taxidermists in America, and obviously the drive-thru wedding chapels I've heard of before. But I mean, that's just a convenience that, you know, most people do these days. So I think it was McDonald's that had the first drive-thru. Something about American soldiers or something couldn't get out of cars or in combat gear or something. I can't remember. Somebody will Google that and let me know. Yeah, so that's how come the drive-thrus came about. But they're very convenient. Very convenient. I think the only one we ever use these days is Macca's, McDonald's. So, okay.
Comfortable to be in your own car, not worrying about what you look like really, waiting in line while sitting down with your own music, but still getting food and completing other errands. And that wraps up my list of 13 things about the US that I don't want to live without anymore after living here for 5 years. Let me know where you disagree with me or where you agree in the comments below, and also what kinds of follow-up questions you have for me. And of course, stay tuned for my counterpart video of the things that even after 5 years in the US, I still can't get used to. I hope you guys liked this video. Thank you so much for all of your support over the last 3 years that I've had my YouTube channel. And if you want to keep supporting me, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and also activate the little bell, hit the thumbs up button, and you can also support my channel on patreon.com/ or buy me a coffee or a beer on buymeacoffee.com/. Of course, get your own t-shirt, hoodie, beer mug, sticker, etc. on felifromgermany.com. That way you'll support my channel and also have a cool t-shirt at home, so it's a win-win situation. Of course, you can also find me outside of YouTube on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok sometimes. So I hope I'll see you there or on here for my next video. Tschüss!
So that was very interesting. From her list, I think Australia covers a lot of those things that she highlighted. Some of them surprised me that Germany doesn't have air conditioning. I can understand because Germany is a colder country than some of the US. Like I said, we couldn't live without, AC here in Australia. It'd just be impossible. I mean, you probably could do it. It'd be very uncomfortable, but yeah, no. We have them everywhere. I think they've just done a big drive in the last 10 years to make all the schools in Queensland air conditioned. So we really rely on it quite a lot. And as I said, sometimes it's when it's really hot. When it's really, really hot. Just to go down to the shopping center, where at the mall or whatever you call it, where they have bigger air conditioning, it's much cooler. Just to hang out there and, cool down for a while. So air conditioning, I could see, so a lot of that kind of aligns with what we do in Australia. Very interesting. Very interesting. Like I said, I've never been to Germany. I've never lived in Germany. So some of that came as a surprise, convenience and stuff like, I mean, some places in Australia aren't open on a Sunday, I must admit, so smaller towns, stuff like that. Where my mother-in-law lives, definitely not open on a Sunday. She lives in a little country town. So, yeah, so we do, I guess but the fact that the bigger stores aren't open, you'll still get a store that's open, so it's not like everything is closed. So you may have to hunt around it a little bit, but you'll still get it. But yeah, that was a very interesting video. Very interesting. So thank you very much for that link. You know who you are, who sent it. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Let me know if she's kind of missed anything out or you want to expand on any of those points. Let me know. So very interesting video. So guys, thank you very much for joining me today. Make sure you stay safe and I'll definitely see you in the next reaction video. Did you enjoy that video? Why not watch another one?